was proof of what was happening. So she says insufficient evidence to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that they did not act in self-defense. In a statement, Joyce explained that there was, quote, no independent, credible witness that could be put in front of a grand jury or regular jury who contradicts police statements. She said in 2016, adding, quote, none of the other witnesses had a clear view at the moment when Mansour was shot. Ma'am, you sound like a damn defense attorney talking about the credibility of one human being as opposed to the other. You really believe that cops have that much strength in their testimony in front of a jury today? Their testimony is so, let's just say, fluid at best, up and down, that a police report is not allowed to be entered as evidence in a criminal trial. Now, in 2020, it's called hearsay. The cop has to testify to it themselves. In 2020, the victim's father, Dennis Bell-Bay, filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the officers. Once again, extrajudicial remedy by the family. Friday, a jury awarded Mansour Bell-Bay's family $6.25 million in their wrongful death suit, plus $12.5 million in a punitive damages suit, totaling $18.7 million, according to the attorney, Javed Kazili. Now, Kazili said the family was actually pleased with the verdict, noting that the jury reached its decision in just 90 minutes. That's it, 90 minutes. He added that the $18.75 million award was far greater than the city's initial $450,000 settlement offer. So what do you have? You really think a civil jury is somehow holistically different than a criminal jury? No, same people. They get them from the same voter files, the voter registration database. The person who prosecuted this in civil court is not an actual trained prosecutor. It's a civil litigator. But that civil litigator was able to present such damning evidence that the jury of peers, they came to a conclusion that this prosecutor claims never would have happened. Now, granted, in civil court, there's a different standard of reasonable doubt, or what we call a preponderance of evidence in the civil case. But the reality is people are people. So we can cite those rules and regulations all day. If somebody believes you did it, they're going to say you did it. If they believe you did not do it, they're going to say you did not do it. All right, young man obviously should be alive today. He is not. No amount of money will bring him back. The family has been grieving for many years, and finally they got this symbol of justice. Once again, we are met with the reality of one leader who made one decision that obviously went against the very ethical and moral code of that office. And then a civil litigator is able to successfully prosecute the case based on the family creating an extrajudicial remedy. What say you?
I just look at the sort of systemic abuses happening here, where you go from the cops, where they get a freaking fake evidence talking about the kid was running away with a gun, clearly shown to be at best, just incompetence, at worst, a coordinated and planned cover up, a way to manufacture evidence, which is just, these are the guys tasked with the authority of, gathering evidence and proof of crimes here. Like, they are the last sort of stand here. And if these guys have no integrity in that way, that kind of blows up the entire bargain in terms of the citizens and the people we grant this authority to. And then, of course, it goes up the chain to the DA's office, who can blithely say, oh, look, we don't think we can convict, as if the evidence is the only reason they ever go to trial for stuff. A lot of times they go to trial just to show you guys exactly, expose all of the things that did happen. Maybe they don't get a verdict, but at least the truth can be out there in terms of what the evidence is in the case. And for this district attorney to come out and say, oh, we have no interest in doing that. Again, this is just more systemic abuse. And, and again, you mentioned it, Dr. Ritchie, even if the burden of proof is much lower in a civil case, the fact that they so easily won so much damages for the family, which can't replace the loss of a loved one. But the fact that they were able to get this much in damages, it just shows you how, rock solid the case was.
Yeah, and the fact they did it in an hour and a half.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, all right. Man, MAGA meltdown. Kendrick Lamar halftime show. Put it up full mass. When I tell you this was beautifully done. MAGA is melting down over Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl halftime message, not performance. It was a message in performance by the Grammy winners' performance, including appearances by Samuel L. Jackson playing Uncle Sam, Serena Williams crip walking to a song about an ex-boyfriend that was diabolical. Colorado, oh man, Colorado Representative Lauren Boebert was quick to complain. Put it up. Tell me I'm not the only one needing subtitles for this. No, ma'am, you're not. You see, you're not enlightened. I'll put it back up, please. You're not enlightened, ma'am. This message was for the enlightened. I'm going to read what other unenlightened individuals who are not open to the reality of their solution. You're looking at your solution during that halftime show. I will break it down for you. Right-wing commentators, Eric Daughtry, Benny Johnson, took their criticisms to the extreme, describing the performance as black nationalist, and calling Lamar a, quote, mumbling pagan satanic cultist. Mumbling pagan satanic cultist. Okay. Guys, to the extreme conservatives who have decided to chime in on the polarization of evil in reference to what they still deem a performance by calling our dear brother Kendrick Lamar some kind of pagan Satanist, when the evidence is contrary. He is a beacon of light, if you're able to accept it. But, the NFL has done far worse atrocities than what you are talking about in your current commentary. I mean, Colin Kaepernick. Did you blame the NFL for what they have done to marginalize black voices or women, abuse victims? No. You only came up with this religious mumbo jumbo when a black man told you the truth and happened to have a smile while doing it. Conservative commentator Matt Walsh described the performance as, quote, easily the worst halftime show we had ever seen. Now, don't they say this every year? Yeah, they do. Disgraced former Congressman Matt Gaetz chimed in. Wow. The halftime show you just watched is clearly the regime's response to Trump's historic gains with black men. Now, his comment was not the highlight of this post. It was actually Mr. Brian Tyler. In response to Matt Gaetz' response to the halftime show, Brian Tyler said, quote, I hear you like I'm young, end quote. Well played, sir. Well played. Another former representative, George Santos, the prolific criminal. I mean, this cat, wow, was more direct. The Super Bowl halftime show was absolute trash. Now, what do all of these individuals have in common? MAGA. They are not for solutions. They are not able to be critiqued. They do not like light. What is light? Light is information. Light is information to break the shackles. Light is truth. They don't want truth. They want propaganda. Now, see, if Kendrick Lamar would have come out singing proud to be an American, oh my God, he's the greatest thing since sliced bread, the white kind. Ben Shapiro. Icing on the cake right here. No pun intended, Ben. My halftime show review. Actually, it's a beautiful voice and a beautiful accent. The only problem is I can't understand a word you're saying. But I just say this, good luck, live in peace. I know, dear brother, you see, he's speaking a language that you don't. It's called real-ish. And if you're not versed in real-ish conversations, then the language is foreign to you. But I appreciate you telling the truth. Let's break down the imagery here. Put it up full mass. Kendrick Lamar, coming from the background of gang culture, I do myself understand the polarization that is required to navigate egos, check egos, and sometimes finesse egos to survive. The symbolism many of them missed from Kendrick Lamar's epic Super Bowl halftime show was the reality of our gang divisions in the United States of America. I'm not talking about Crips and Blood. I'm talking about us. The gangsters that are truly terrifying, that create your policies that kill your mama. Those are the gangsters that he's talking about. There's this division, this fluid, chaotic division, but we are all in the same space, but divided. And what are we really divided by? Because the colors don't divide us. See, the colors create a category. What divides us is our response to our experiences, exposures, and environments. You see, as a social scientist as well, I believe truly that a person is made up of those three E's, myself included. You change experiences, exposures, and environments, you all of a sudden change a person's perspective. This is why they're fighting hard to make sure you cannot disrupt their normative and privileged experiences, exposures, and environment. Because if you do that, you thus start transforming the person. Uncle Sam, our brother did a wonderful job. He was supposed to represent the sanitized America. Samuel L. Jackson played this role very well. The America that makes most of the Super Bowl viewers comfortable. That's why he said, quote, too ghetto before Not Like Us started playing. And then he was silenced. He was all part of that interplay. If you are bothered by the halftime show being boring, he was there for you. He was enlightening you to the reality of what you are here for. You are here for entertainment, not information, not truth. And so he was that character in the halftime show that allowed everyone, if they were able to get it, we all understand it, that this is intentional, that this is going to make y'all comfortable. All right, so Jackson's Uncle Sam, said that Lamar's performance was, quote, too ghetto, telling him to, quote, tighten up. That was in the beginning. Before flashing back to his dancers taking shape of the American flag. As one user wrote on X, the creativity alone serves as a perfect example as why Kendrick won that Pulitzer in the first place. Now, remember, typically, if there are Black people on stage dancing, the right is concerned about or complaining about body movement, body features, lack of clothing, lack of class, taste, appropriateness. But none of that was a complaint. Boring. That's all they said. Now, the entire performance was obviously steeped in American imagery. on an incredibly deep level. From dancers dressed in the colors of the American flag to Jackson narrator Lamar's journey playing the great American game. He then said, quote, I want to perform their favorite song, but they love to sue, end quote. Naturally, this sent the internet into a frenzy with fans shocked just how frank Lamar was at that moment. And in case you forgot, last month, Drake filed a defamation lawsuit against Universal Music Group, claiming that UMG approved and helped promote the false factual allegation that the headlines rapper was or is a certified, quote, certified pedophile, as Lamar raps in Not Like Us. A truly difficult moment to digest was this one. Okay, when I saw Serena Williams, not on the sideline, not in the crowd, but on a stage, part of the performance, when Kendrick Lamar finally performed Not Like Us, the camera quickly moved over to Serena, who was seen dancing to the song. Williams dated Drake 2 years ago. Now, let me say this, all right? We got to stop this. This may be too much for our brother Drake. I mean, damn it, man. I've been saying for years, and people thought I was hating on Drake. I said Drake is the #1 rapper out of Canada. But when we put him up against the greatest of all times, I said, you're setting him up. You're setting him up. What is he doing now? No offense to my Canadian viewers, but he's acting real Canadian in hip hop right now. And that's cool because he's Canadian. But to have your ex-girlfriend crip walking on a stage when the song is about you liking minders, oh my goodness, man. All right, Woz.
I mean, to get back to the right wingers for a sec, I think if you're Kendrick Lamar in his camp, you woke up very happy this morning knowing that who your greatest critics were the exact right people right. To be pissed off. Like, that goes without saying. These guys don't get it. Just the idea that this was boring, I think, is crazy. The guy obviously put on a performance, well thought out, very brilliantly executed. And the bottom line is the guy had one of the biggest years a rapper's ever had in the history of the genre. And so the idea that he didn't belong on that stage and performing his artistry in a way that he deemed most appropriate is just crazy to me. Like, he earned that moment and he did with it what he's always done in his career. He's always been big on the symbolism and messaging about America and especially places like Compton where he grew up. And that goes without saying. In terms of the performance and vanquishing his enemies and Drake and others, the message was sent, the message was clear. It's definitely a victory lap of proportions that we've never seen. And yeah, I don't know how you watch that and not think this guy put a lot of time, effort, and talent into what he did. And I thought it was a flawless execution of all of those things. And if Ben Shapiro doesn't get it, you probably did the right thing with your halftime show performance.
That's right. The problem would be if you agreed with any of those individuals that disagreed with the halftime show, you need to look in the mirror because you're not in good company. All right, and big ups to Kendrick, first rapper to solo an entire halftime show. Big ups to him. He earned it, and he is doing it with a credible message. All right. Very sad story. A Black maintenance worker at a nursing facility racially abused, and this is pretty severe, put up his picture full mask. A white supervisor who allegedly called the Black maintenance worker boy and the N-word at the West Virginia nursing facility has now, the facility files a racial discrimination lawsuit, and the individual at the middle of this is obviously extremely disturbed emotionally. Quote, I'm giving you a chance, just one chance. I'm going to be watching you, boy. This is the manner in which Ethan Mullins, a 23-year-old black man, says the new boss spoke to him just after he was hired as a maintenance worker at a skilled nursing facility for seniors. This was in West Virginia, Parkersburg. 2023 is the year. The threatening comment allegedly made by Dustin Carpenter, the director of maintenance, was actually overheard by somebody else. The person who overheard it is Melissa McKinley. At that time, Melissa was the human resources director at Worthington Healthcare. So this guy is saying it in front of the enforcement department against administrative violations. McKinley says she found the remarks by Carpenter, quote, inappropriate and unacceptable, and the use of the term boy racially offensive. She immediately reported the incident to Worthington Healthcare Executive Director Alvin Lawson, who was responsible for employee discipline. Okay, so let's go to Lawson. What did Lawson do? Not a damn thing. Lawson took no action in response to her report. She says in the weeks and months to come, Carpenter frequently referred to Mullins as boy, screamed at and belittled him in front of other employees, treatment he did not subject white employees to under his supervision, according to a racial discrimination lawsuit filed by Mullins on January 31st in Wood County Circuit Court in West Virginia. So the individual continues to do this. It is obviously embarrassing. It is belittling. And it goes directly at the core of your value, worth, and self-esteem. I want to say thank you to the HR employee who did the absolute right thing, reported it to management. Now management decided not to respond, according to the report. So Carpenter also used the term the N-word. Multiple occasions he did this, as did another Worthington employee, Mullins claims. Carpenter also allegedly said in front of other employees that he would be watching Mullins and that he, Carpenter, was a, quote, slave driver. So what's happening here? Because the Worthington Health Care Center, according to their motto, their protocol, their value system, they are adverse to any form of racism or bigotry. You see, it's the part that's in writing that somehow never made it to the culture, and it can't make it to the culture when infraction has no enforcement. And that's what you're seeing. McKinley says these racist and racially charged statements were reported to her by Mullins and other witnesses, and that she continued to report Carpenter's harassing conduct toward Mullins up the chain, both verbally and via email to Lawson and other Worthington Communicare corporate representatives. She continued to do so. Lawson still took no remedial action. The Carpenter's harassment and disparate treatment of Mullins continued unabated, the complaint says. Now, there's this email trail that clearly shows if you did not know this person was engaged in racial discrimination and harassment, you now know. And if you now know and you keep the employee, you are engaged in negligent retention. We'll get to that in a moment. Carpenter once threatened Mullins by telling him if he did not strictly follow his instructions, Carpenter would ensure that Mullins, quote, could never work in the healthcare field again, the lawsuit claims. On another occasion, Carpenter allegedly told Mullins, quote, I don't understand why you guys call each other N-word and wear expensive shoes. This statement was actually overheard by somebody else. This time, Carmen Izzy, another facility employee, who reported that conduct to McKinley in HR, according to McKinley's affidavit. Mullins resigned in 2024. In his resignation letter, he cited the hostile work environment based on his race. he had experienced at Worthington, the complaint says, after Mullins resigned, McKinley, quote, felt compelled to report Carpenter's specific use of the N-word to Communicare's regional human resources executives. His attorney, Sean Cook, told the Atlanta Black Star. This resulted in another meeting. This time, the meeting included Carpenter, Lawson, and McKinley, during which Lawson was again, quote, verbally warned about his conduct by Booth, Cook says, but neither verbal reprimand he received ended up in Carpenter's employee file, a breach of company policy, according to McKinley. Now, before I get into the lawsuit, this person, man, not just a great human resources director or manager, a great human being. After the brother resigned, she could not let it go. Why? She got too much love in her. She has too much heart. And because of what she did, it has created the perfect civil litigation case for this brother to win his suit. Suit claims that Worthington Healthcare violated West Virginia human rights laws by racially discriminating against Mullins, treating him differently than white employees, creating and maintaining a hostile and intolerable work environment, retaliating against him when he complained about race-based harassment and desperate treatment. This forced him to resign, a constructive discharge that has cost him lost wages and emotional distress. Mullins is seeking a jury trial to determine compensatory and also punitive damages. And I guarantee you, much of the evidence, especially for punitive, is going to be connected to the email chain that this human resources manager provided. So I want to highlight this story for a few reasons. Number one, the brother stood up for himself, took a lot from this company for a long time. There are allies in the field. There are allies in the field who may not look like us, may not look like you, may not look like me, but we got allies in the field. Don't forget that. Number two, good people are just good people, regardless of skin color, background, religion. Good people are just good people. And it bears out that typically good people are the best at their job. Very good. And because of this, she was empowered to do something. And sometimes, especially in politics, we feel so disempowered. Executive orders coming left and right. Funding is being threatened, from higher education to Meals on Wheels. But this person was empowered to do something in the moment that was in front of them. And I'm reminded that fighting for policy obviously is good. Good policy is good any day of the week. But I also got to fight the fights right in front of me too, and do good there as well. And that's how you transform a nation. All right, Woz, thoughts here.
Man, this case ran the gamut in terms of workplace abuses. The guy was being verbally abused, intimidation, discrimination, retaliatory actions taken against his. I mean, this is freaking textbook in terms of the things that are illegal to do in the workplace for rights that workers have fought for. We fought for these rights 100 years ago in terms of what was allowed to be done to an employee in a workplace. And the fact that this stuff was documented, that this guy was so abusive and so racially motivated in his abuses. I mean, this is just a slam dunk case for Mullins and his family. And it's just kind of insane that this could happen in America these days, that somebody could be at their job and one of their bosses is spewing the N-word at them and just racially berating them. Like, you would think that we'd be past that,
right,
as a sort of behavior in our workplaces, but apparently not. And hopefully these people, both the guy guy who perpetuated this stuff and the folks who oversaw it and negligently allowed for it to continue. Hopefully they get their just due as well.
That's right. And obviously this doesn't happen without the protection of corporate entities in
100%.
particular places. And so to Worthington, you got some good employees there. You all need to take a lesson out of their playbook. I would highly advise you not to retaliate against them. All right, we got more on the other side. Indisputable stick and stay.
What contributions to the progressive cause are you most proud of? I mean, I don't have super high aspirations for a singular role that I can play in the movement or anything. I try to present myself as what I think that I am, which is a progressive man who is driven by I think, well-interrogated and well-organized system of values that I try to stay consistent on, and I demonstrate that that's the sort of life that a person can lead and be successful and be happy and all of that. And that should not need to be done, but there are so many people on the right that are trying to push men in the opposite direction that I want to be able to do that. Along the way, if I can get people to care about some topics that they wouldn't necessarily care about, or that for some men they might think that's not a topic that they should be focused on, that's definitely something that I relish doing. And along the way, I mean, we've been able to introduce people to a lot of candidates. That's been a big part of what we've done. You know, not all of them necessarily got in office. Probably most of them did not. And a lot of them, you might not even remember their names. But it was great to be able to provide people the platform where they had the chance of, you know, making a difference. Obviously AOC and all that, but there's been a lot of great people along the way.
In the bonus episode for the members, we do some inside baseball. We're gonna look at John's desk. Nice little spaceship here. Nerd. But it is kind of look cool. Who has Legos? Oh no. He's taken apart a keyboard. Who has a mouse pad that's this big? He's got a dog with a nose that you could hang something on. You know what this desk screams to me? Nerd. And that's how we like him. We love Johnny Pie. He's got his own personality like everybody does at TYT. Come meet us all in the bonus episodes. TYT.com/team.
David Sorrell.
Dr. Phil.
Adam Green drop by.
Charlemagne.
Congressman, great to have you. It's great to be with you, Chang.
Your show is a great thing. You're informing people. A lot of the shows that I live on, you know, my CNN, my MSNBC, and even Fox, and any of the other shows, NPR, they are so quick to decide that they know what this building means today.
The one thing that I hate that politicians do, you know, they talk about the people they should be talking to.
Do they have any idea that they're the establishment and that they're hated? Or do they not realize that at all?
People are so deeply in their little universe. I think it's very easy to not really question what you're doing.
Voters have a right to ask questions of any nominee, whether they're independent, Republican, or Democrat.
The system is duopoly that suppresses competition.
How is it the year 2024 and we're still like, maybe they'll talk about paid medical? Like how is that like at one level it's like, look at what we're talking about now. You're like, it's 2024.
And that's always been the critique, that your critique of us is, well, you guys give good speeches, you put out good tweets, but you're not wielding actual power. Now we're starting to.
Yes. Congratulations on all your success. You guys are everywhere.
It's about a country and a principle, and that's what you and I both work to achieve. And I'm so glad that at least half the battle has now been won.
If you want to go really hear what's going on honestly, you should tune into the Young Turks.
Thanks for doing such a great job. Please keep it up. Hang tough.
Yeah.
That makes me so happy.
Oh, I like making you happy.
I didn't know about
This is a
that.
happy annex experience.
What's up?
You're welcome, YouTube.
Join the Dragon Squad by becoming a YouTube channel member. Click the join button below or sign up on tyt.com/join to get access to fun emojis, a member-only chat, exclusive shop TYT designs, ad-free watching, and so many other amazing perks. Plus, you get bragging rights for being part of the coolest community on the internet and help us drive real positive change in the world. The Dragon Squad awaits, so join today.
All right, welcome back. A lot of show left. Last week, we did an interview with Miss Kendra Irvin, okay? And if we have that GoFundMe, I want us to put it up. You all have raised so much money. She is a mother who was fired from Arby's after defending herself from a racist attacker. She has a GoFundMe that has so far raised over $10,000 since our broadcast. That's because of you. I want to say thank you. You're the best audience in the world. Her goal is $25,000 to cover her bills and to fund legal representation. Donate to the GoFundMe if you're able to do so. The interview has gone viral. Because people care in this world. All right. If you remember from that interview, the young lady claimed that management told her to delete the video she had on her own phone. Management was not cooperating with law enforcement to get the full video so that she could effectively press charges. But while we're not the court of law, we're all the court of public opinion. And there are some wrongs we can right here. So I thank you so much for everything that you have done. Okay. Got a few comments. Over 9,000 into the Dragon says, Doc and Wosny, a dynamic duo. I agree. And Purple Rain Dragon, you all right, Purple Rain Dragon. I can't debate you on that. Drake had enough resources to make better choices. You can't argue with that. You are absolutely correct. He could have easily faked his death, had plastic surgery, and fled the country. You're right. That's what he should have done. I was tickled by Sarita. When I saw the Sarita thing, it was priceless. All right, Knuckle Dragon says, sipping MAGA tears would make a great country song. I think you just put it in the universe. It's going to come. It's going to happen now. And Slayer, welcome to Indisputable. Thank you so much for joining. And let's see. Yeah, that's right. Be the goddess. You can't expect uneducated MAGA to understand the genius of Lamar. And it's not that they're uneducated in a formal sense. Education be damned when it comes to things like this. They're unwilling to be enlightened to truth. They simply want entertainment, propaganda. That's it. And, yep, Game Freak, Kendrick Lamar, the king of rap, yes. LaRon, Harrison, Brian, Tyler Colett, well played, sir. That's right. And yeah, Tyler, I agree. Samuel L. Jackson was a great addition. Perfect. And he did it flawlessly, too. Snack Panther, Bo Bird is not like us. That's right. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I got something for you. I wish Karen would.
You want to call the police on them for having a barbecue on a Sunday.
I feel free! Back off! I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
You want our bums to be uncomfortable.
This cushion is a problem.
No, you gotta stop. You have to stop.
Anyway, exactly. You have to stop.
She's touching me now. You got that? Yeah, you got that? She touched me.
I got that.
Yeah,
I got it.
Don't worry.
Hey guys, enjoy, yeah? Enjoy because you have to have some manners.
She's getting it.
Your
She's close. She's close. Look, she's close.
You don't go to a bar.
Oh my God, she's still doing it. Oh my God.
It's not correct. No.
Oh my God.
You are not doing that.
You think she's done?
You have to respect the trumpet.
That looks really nice. Is that pasta?
The pasta plate.
The pasta plate? Okay, guys, you have it. Oh my God.
That's really nice. Is that plastic? Whew. Put it up full mass. The Black woman who is being harassed by this Karen, in my opinion, just a beautiful human being inside and out. The poster of the clip wrote on TikTok, paying customers can't use amenities according to Karen and her little friend. You see, while most people would focus on the Karen, and typically that's what we do here. Put it back up, Jordan. We're going to focus on the little friend. You see, being a friend of a Karen while they are engaged in Karenicity is similar to being the getaway driver for a bank robbery. You're both the same. You're going to get the same charge. Karenicity. All right. I'll put up the Karen in question here. Full mass. Yep. All right. So the issue, obviously, is, well, self-control. I understand you believe you should be able to do things, but don't let your imagination get the best of it. Just play it through in the parameters of your thinking. It'll be just fine. It's amazing to me the level of patience that I see from Black women in these types of situations, because obviously you have unwanted physical contact, right? You have aggression, you have insults, you have all kinds of things happening at an establishment where literally everybody's just trying to have a good time. What say you?
Yeah, it's just weird behavior by the staffer there. Usually, when something like that happens, somebody just nicely comes over, speaks to you, blah, blah, blah. They don't try to condescend you. They know you're not trying to ruin anything happening in terms of the vibes of the restaurant. So to come over hostile and with the weird tone of you're catching somebody in the act of doing something bad. It's just weird and stupid and doesn't make sense in terms of fostering an atmosphere that customers and diners would like to enjoy. And so I'm not sure where this lady gets her management principles from, but clearly they're misaligned with good vibrations.
There you go, brother. It's all about the vibrations, man. Beneficial, non-beneficial. Keep it moving. All right. It's tax season, tax preparation season. Be very careful. There's a story, tax preparer allegedly scammed nearly 24 people. Put it up full mass. I'm taking you to a story from WSB TV. A tax preparer allegedly tricked nearly 24 people to pay her thousands of dollars to help them apply for what's called hardship grants they never received. According to WSB TV, 23 people from 7 different states solicited the help of a Miss Natasha Hodge, a tax preparer in DeKalb County, Georgia. That's right next to Fulton County, Atlanta. Mary Hoyle was trying to find a way to pay for her son's cancer treatments. Quote, when my son got sick, I started learning a lot of things were not covered. But she, too, was allegedly tricked by Natasha Hodge. You're going to see a theme of how this works. The victims recall Hodge's process for awarding the so-called grants. First, Hodge told them they must pay her a processing fee through a payment app. Then she promised to complete grant applications on their behalf. She guaranteed that each of her clients would get more grant money for every processing fee she received and for every person they recommended. Okay? The scheme takes advantage of a person's vulnerability, takes advantage of their desperation because they're trying to come out of debt, or they're trying to, as in this case, take care of their own child. So this individual latches onto that desperation, latches onto it, and then gives them an incentive to manipulate their own family and friends in order to do one thing: make a buck. You were paying a processing fee for her to fill out grants for you because she knew the verbiage. To get the grants to come through, Hoyle said, So the money never came, but the excuses were plenty. Put them up. According to the victims, Hodge sent several texts to her clients promising that the payouts were on the way. In another text, she insulted and criticized them. Quote, BBL and hair and clothes is all they want, Hodge wrote in one text. In another message, she wrote, quote, I have a team of attorneys. It's only the broke people talking. More than a year after Ms. Hoyle sought help, her son passed away. Quote, you got these people's money. You gave these people hope where you had no plan or doing anything to help any of us, Hoyle said. Some victims reported they paid Hodge upwards of $10,000. They were promised $5.6 million in return. Hodge reportedly operated under, now get this, the Black Coalition Foundation. Shame on you. But no such nonprofit under that name is listed as a 501c3 with the IRS. However, she shared that she's still offering loan and grant opportunities under a new organization that she's leading. The FBI stated that they were made aware of the allegations, but have not confirmed whether an investigation has been launched. Put her up again for me. Ma'am. Everybody now sees what you're doing. Taking advantage of the vulnerable guarantees one thing. You are not at peace with yourself. You likely are unable to look in the mirror without lying or go to sleep without being honest with you. Utilizing Blackness in order to pull off this extremely diabolical manipulation and con is another indicator of your disdain for not only the people that you are allegedly helping, but Black folk in general. While we don't know about any other investigative prowess that may be happening around you, the viewers of this audience will be well aware of what has happened. I hope that the victims are made whole. Wosny, thoughts?
Obviously, scamming is horrific in all of its forms. But when you're taking from people who don't have a lot to begin with, I think that's just another level of treachery. And then, you're doing this under the guise of some Black coalition unity. This idea that, and every Black person that you ever meet, believes in this principle that we need to stick together, that we should be trying to uplift each other, and pull each other up as we all rise in this freaking, country that can sometimes be so hard for a lot of us. To take advantage of that sentiment and do the exact opposite, it's just, man, it's just the definition of heartbreaking. And the folks out there, some people be like, oh, you should have been smarter, you should have been this. A lot of people don't have the time or the know-how to do like a thorough investigation of some of the people they're getting involved with. Sometimes they get a good recommendation or referral, and it's just like, okay, somebody I know and I like referred this person to me, and I ended up getting burned. And it's, again, man, it's just sad that she did some race huckster stuff and pretended to be doing this on the basis of want to uplift fellow Black people, and in fact did, again, the utter opposite of that and scammed folks out of their savings and stuff that they were hoping to use to help other family members. It's a tragedy.
Yeah, and once again, one of our responsibilities is to bring light to places that are dark, and we have done that in this case. We will bring you updates as they develop. We got more on the other side. It's indisputable. Stick and stay.
Do all of you know the Young Turks?
An outlet like yourself that are willing to cover this story from the very beginning.
You have the Young Turks and a bunch of other progressive forces saying this is the time to fight for our values.
And I think right now there are a lot of progressive voters, many leftists who feel like they don't have a home.
And this is why what Cenk and the Young Turks are doing is so important.
What we've done is sustainable, slow, healthy growth. And I think that's the way news should be, where you don't rely on sensationalist stuff. You don't lean on whatever's trendy in the news at any given moment. You just go with the truth.
You gave me a platform.
You've uplifted so many other progressive voices through this network, and you're constantly looking for people that you can amplify through the work we do, through the infrastructure that you built at TYT.
It takes those early people who believe that can really be the seeds of this movement, and that has been the Young Turks.
We're super serious about the news. We also managed to do it in a way that is fun and lighthearted. We're not TYT, you're TYT.
You are the media revolution. You are much needed.
TYT, TYT.
The place is like 95% TYT on.
You guys, the Young Turks, which is my favorite channel, we're getting that message out.
Cenk and the Young Turks do an extraordinarily good job.
No matter what mainstream media says, you have to listen to the Young Turks.
All the people who support us on the internet, that's what gives us strength. That's what allows anyone who was in there who was undecided to think one side seems to be winning, they seem to have a bigger army. There might be a reason for that. So thank you guys.
All right, welcome back. We got a lot of comments. I will read as many as I can, kind of pressed for time. Swift says another Bernie Madoff. Yeah, in spirit, right? And that's very good of you. Cajun Fish and Hound. Although this old white Louisiana-born lady wasn't able to understand the lyrics of the songs, I still seen it had a strong message to convey. And I've seen what the songs represented. That's because you care about light, truth, information, wisdom. Thank you for saying that. Jenny O'Malley, welcome to Disputable. Thank you for joining. And what did I serve for says, caring by association. You see, yeah, little friend. And it's Victoria says, what is Karen doing? Too much. Too much. Bobby says she knew she was going to be on I Wish Karen Would. LOL. Yeah. Hopefully one day somebody is filming a Karen, and this is a minor goal of mine. And while filming the Karen, somebody just yells out, indisputable. When that happens, ladies and gentlemen, we have arrived. All right. Okay. Donald Trump, yes, Trump confirms plans to take over Canada. He's going to annex Canada. I try to report these stories with a straight face. He plans and has confirmed it to annex Canada and push Palestinians, somehow get them from Gaza and to Canada. Trump tells a massive Super Bowl TV audience this. Here it is.
The Prime Minister said this weekend to a group of Canadian businessmen, he was at a private meeting, he said that your wish for Canada to be the 51st state is a, quote, real thing. Is it a real thing?
Yeah, it is. I think Canada would be much better off being a 51st state because we lose $200 billion a year with Canada, and I'm not going to let that happen. too much. Why are we paying $200 billion a year, essentially in subsidy to Canada? Now, if they're a 51st state, I don't mind doing it.
Now, if he says this about Canada, I wonder what he says about Puerto Rico. All right. In the same interview, Trump tells Brett Baier Palestinians are not welcome back to Gaza in his beautiful real estate development plan. Here it is.
Build beautiful communities for the 1.9 million people. We'll build beautiful communities, safe communities. Could be 5, 6, could be 2, but we'll build safe communities a little bit away from where they are, where all of this danger is. In the meantime, I would own this. Think of it as a real estate development for the future. It would be a beautiful piece of land.
Would the Palestinians
no
have the
big
right
money
to return?
spent. No, they wouldn't, because they're going to have much better housing, much better. In other words, I'm talking about building a permanent place for them. Because if they have to return now, it'll be years before you could ever. It's not habitable. It will be years before it could happen. I'm talking about starting to build, and I think I could make a deal with Jordan. I think I could make a deal with Egypt. You know, we give them billions and billions of dollars a year.
Okay, at some point, I hope people start talking about Donald Trump's obvious mental decline and cognitive inability, as they did with Biden. This is insane. Imagine Biden or anybody else you take seriously in politics saying something like this. You would claim they have lost their mind, off their rocker. But when Trump says it, all of a sudden, MAGA says, oh, actually, that is genius. Let's be 100. Canada is a sovereign nation. Canada got something for your ass, too. It's called a military. And that military is independent, the Canadian Royal Air Force, et cetera, and they are trained. They are trained to defend their domestic territory. So I'm sure they'll have something to say about this, number one. Number two, the fact that you have a proposal from a sitting U.S. president to colonize, actively colonize 2 regions, not 1, 2. No agreement from anybody, no coalition from anyone, shows you the level of extreme disconnect this individual has toward humanity itself. The Palestinians, average age 19.1. It is a young community. They don't have the diplomatic and alliedship or allies throughout the world as, let's say, Israel does. They don't have the PR wing as Netanyahu. But I thought we all agreed that Israel was not at war with Palestinians. Remember when I said this early on? Netanyahu is utilizing this war on Hamas as a proxy to wage a war on the Palestinians in order to displace them. I said that on day one. Day one. Now he has an ally where he always has had one. It's called America. But once again, they were never at war with the Palestinians. So why are the Palestinians suffering? Because that was the proxy of this whole thing from the beginning anyway. Now, Republicans have gone on record, ironically, 2 or 3 of them, to talk about how utterly insane this is from Donald Trump. They sanitize the language that would say things like, well, he has a big imagination. One actually said, us taking over sovereign countries? No, not happening. Big ups to that lone Republican who said so. But at some point, these checks got to balance. At some point, these checks got to balance. I'm talking to the Republican lawmakers. You are a balance and check to the power of the executive authority. Use it. He's proposing these things because he believes you're all feckless cowards. I believe you're feckless cowards, but I'm not a Republican. He says he is. He's one of yours. Wosny thoughts.
There's just so much to parse whenever Trump kind of opens his mouth, especially as it pertains to foreign relations, because you could tell he doesn't really care about this stuff and hasn't really thought it through. I think the candidate thing is just bluster. I think it's more of his flood the zone strategy in terms of giving us as many news items as possible so as not to focus and fixate on the more important ones. But I think the Palestinian stuff, the Gaza stuff it feels like a little bit more credible. It sounds like he's trying to, Trump fancies himself as a deal maker. So it sounds like he's trying to put out the most egregious ideas in terms of messaging to Hamas to maybe get them to make some more concessions after a deal has already been signed. Because again, in practice, we have to remind folks why this can't happen in the way that Donald Trump thinks that it can. One, Jordan and Egypt. It's not just that they don't want the Palestinians. They don't want to absorb 1 million people, new people into their population, 1 million new refugees into their populations, because it'll destabilize the country. Their regimes will be toppled. The people in charge of the countries that we're talking about would be signing up for assured destruction in terms of their power in their given countries. So that's the one it's not even that they don't want to, they can't accept these terms from Donald Trump or anybody else. And then you add the fact that the Palestinians are not just going to walk, get up, and leave. This being on that land is basically core foundational to their identities as Palestinians. They're not just going to leave and allow Israel to take over their ancestral homeland. And so they're going to fight these people. And the bottom line is Israel has waged this all-out total war on Hamas. Even Blinken came out and said they've actually got more members than when this thing first started. They haven't been able to displace them. So they're going to fight you tooth and nail throughout this whole thing. And we're going to send Americans to die over there for this? It makes absolutely no sense. And then forget about blowing up your dreams of normalizations with Saudi Arabia and all of these other Arab countries. Like, it's just a complete fantasy. And if he wanted to get serious and be like, all right, we're America, we're gonna push the Palestinians out ourselves, it would be a brutal, bloody, horrifically unpopular war.
Yeah, a disaster is what it would be. All right. The federal government is telling federal employees not to cooperate with the federal government coalition. It's insane. FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, has banned employees from attending hearings on making air travel safer for me and you. This should have been a non-controversial item. The Federal Aviation Administration has reportedly banned its employees from attending advisory panels set up to explore how to make air travel safer. Politico reported this on Tuesday. We have the background. A new directive issued to FAA employees says they, quote, should not attend in person or virtually until further notice, according to the report. The panels themselves can continue, the directive said, but with an industry co-chair taking the lead without buy-in from the experts at the FAA. Why? It's propaganda. They want propaganda, not true. Quote, these advisory committees are made up of government and industry representatives who meet regularly to find consensus on outstanding issues. That's how you get problems solved before they become big problems. Said the report. Ongoing ones include those related to pilot training and mental health, drones and other emerging technologies, airspace modernization and commercial space operations. Broadly speaking, they tackle ways to reduce risk across the aviation system, taking guidance from airlines, union groups, and even companies that make parts for aircraft, end quote. But one employee told Politico, quote, it appears that safety is being forced to take a back seat due to fear of retribution, which means we all lose. That's right. This comes as the Department of Transportation investigates the collision that downed American Eagle Flight 5342 in the Potomac. President Donald Trump, who recently appointed former Representative Sean Duffy to head the Department of Transportation, has suggested, with no evidence, none, that diversity hiring by the FAA may have been responsible for the American Eagle Flight 5342 collision. Diversity hiring. You know what's interesting about that scenario, about that narrative? Statistically, numerically speaking, the most egregious and the most negligent things that have occurred in our American government, 99% of it has been led by white men. But it's interesting that white males do not get blamed as a race or demographic, even though pound for pound, look at some of the worst decisions that have ever been made, worst calls that have ever been called in America. A white male was leading it. Pick your agency, pick your time frame, pick the era. But white males as a demographic are left out of the policy conversation. That one white male is blamed sometimes, but not the entire race. However, if it relates to diversity, all of a sudden, it's the policy. It's black people, it's brown people, it's women, it's this, it's that. J.D. Vance says, and by the way, I know you forgot, but he's the vice president of the United States, not Elon Musk. J.D. Vance says DEI hires are stressing out workers. Here it is.
Something the president said that I think bears re-emphasizing, which is that when you don't have the best standards in who you're hiring, it means on the one hand, you're not getting the best people in government, but on the other hand, it puts stresses on the people who are already there.
You know, you got the right plan, wrong man. You see, we have worked around mediocre people for a long time in positions of high authority that we could not achieve in that industry dynamic because of the bias, bigotry, and racist protocols that existed in the culture. So we get what you're saying. It stressed us the hell out too, to work for management, supervisors, and a coalition of individuals who could care less about qualification. It is amazing to me how the script is flipped. But all they're doing is what they have historically done. You see, the Boston Tea Party was not a party. If you look at it from what actually happened, you would consider it to be an act of domestic terrorism. But because they get to tell the story, it becomes history. What is history? His story. Look between the lines. Wosny, thoughts?
So just so folks understand the sort of framing that these right wingers are using in their DEI attacks, right? It's not just that they're going after it with this assumption that, oh, DEI is just bad. They're trying to say to people that DEI is bad because oftentimes people are getting hired for considerations that aren't their core competence for the given job and or task.
Yep.
That's the case they're trying to make. Okay, cool. You're making that case. Where is the evidence? Show me the instance where some black person, brown person, lady, queer person, whatever, was hired for a job and was demonstrated in the government that they were wholly unsuited for the job. And the only reason they got hired was some DEI initiative. And I promise you guys, folks, if any of these cases actually existed where some person who was a DEI initiative or could be painted as such, even if they weren't, were somehow wholly incompetent, and these folks could demonstrate that DEI is responsible for them being elevated to this position, it's all you'd see on Fox News. It's all Ben Shapiro would be talking about. And Donald Trump would be out right now naming the person, talking about the job, talking about the mess up, talking about the screw up. They don't have a single thing to point to. They're just slashing programs in order to generate headlines and to make it seem like they're the ones, fixing society, which became so incompetent because we just kept putting black and brown people in positions that they were wholly unqualified for. It's nonsense.
Brother, you make a great point that unfortunately has to be repeated every time we tell this story, and I'm glad you did. We find this at universities and colleges. So in higher education, there's this misnomer that if a student has taken advantage of a diversity program, it used to be called affirmative action, that they did not meet the qualifications to be a student, which is a lie. You have to meet the qualifications, period. Doesn't matter what race you are. You have to meet the qualifications. After you meet the qualifications, diversity can be utilized as a balancing approach to the overall spirit of academia and the culture of the campus. But if you don't meet the qualification, the answer is no anyway from the admissions committee. That is how these DEI programs work holistically. Qualification must be in place. So thank you, dear brother, for the reminder. We got more on the other side. It's indisputable. Stick and stay.
Do all of you know the Young Turks?
An outlet like yourself that are willing to cover this story from the very beginning.
You have the Young Turks and a bunch of other progressive forces saying this is the time to fight for our values.
And I think right now there are a lot of progressive voters, many leftists who feel like they don't have a home.
And this is why what Cenk and the Young Turks are doing is so important.
What we've done is sustainable, slow, healthy growth. And I think that's the way news should be, where you don't rely on sensationalist stuff. You don't lean on whatever's trendy in the news at any given moment. You just go with the truth.
You gave me a platform.
You've uplifted so many other progressive voices through this network, and you're constantly looking for people that you can amplify through the work we do, through the infrastructure that you built at TYT.
It takes those early people who believe that can really be the seeds of this movement, and that has been the Young Turks.
We're super serious about the news. We also managed to do it in a way that is fun and lighthearted. We're not TYT, you're TYT.
You are the media revolution. You are much needed.
TYT, TYT.
The place is like 95% TYT on.
You guys, the Young Turks, which is my favorite channel, we're getting that message out.
Cenk and the Young Turks do an extraordinarily good job.
No matter what mainstream media says, you have to listen to the Young Turks.
The people who support us on the internet, that's what gives us strength. That's what allows anyone who was in there who was undecided to think one side seems to be winning, they seem to have a bigger army. There might be a reason for that. So thank you guys.
Welcome back. Always good to be with you. Let me read a few of these comments. Dumb R. The only reason 47 wants Canada is because his BFF is right next door, Russia. Look at that. together again. And I know. Angie Crowgirl says, I'm in Canada. Grocery stores are labeling made in Canada versus made in USA. Nobody's buying USA groceries, LOL. Yeah, and there are multiple states that do business with Canada. And Canada has basically stopped doing business with those states. Looks like all of them are Republican states, ironically. And the Leslie Michelle, exactly was Trump's problem is that he doesn't think at all. Yeah. LaRon Harris said, ain't nobody going with your stupid ideas, Donnie. There we go. All right. The Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance, defends ex-DOGE worker. DOGE is what I will call it forever. Ex-DOGE worker who hates Indians, even though he's married to an Indian. God damn. Put it a full mass. You can't make this stuff up, man. In September, 25-year-old, now former DOGE staffer, Marco Velez, tweeted, quote, normalize Indian hate, and you could not pay me to marry outside my ethnicity. That's what he said. Okay, let his picture stay up there. He's proud of what he said, obviously. In July, he said, quote, just for the record, I was racist before it was cool. Well, listen, man, you're the kind of racist I can actually appreciate. All right, I know where you stand on day one. You didn't wait for Trump to make it feel safe for you. All right, good for you. Okay. Marco Velez, a 25-year-old former SpaceX employee who worked on the company's Starlink satellites, stepped down from his position the same day a federal judge had approved his restricted read-only access to Treasury payment systems. Now, let me help you understand read-only access. It's basically a security clearance that gives the person access to whatever is required for their job. It is an actual big deal. Okay? All right. Elon Musk, the fans actually protested the removal of this self-admitted racist. And now JD has joined them. A reminder, JD Vance's wife is Indian. Okay? All right. Vice President JD Vance wrote, here's my view. I obviously disagree with some of Velez's post, but I don't think stupid social media activity should ruin a kid's life. We shouldn't reward journalists who try to destroy people ever. So I say, bring them back. If he's a bad dude or terrible member of the team, fire him for that. JD, at some point you gotta be a man, or at least be a husband if you can't be anything else. He has called for the normalization of hating your wife. For the normalization of hating your wife. Sir, do you hate your wife? Do you? Does she hate you? It's hard to see why she wouldn't. Are you okay with this? What does she say about it? Is she allowed to have an opinion? Do you let women talk? Put it up. JD Vance, put it up. All right. And then users on X were quick to criticize Vance's words. Which one did you disagree with? Normalize Indian hate. You could not pay me to marry outside my ethnicity. Or I was racist before it was cool. Another user wrote, he thinks you and your wife's marriage is a crime against nature. Or something like that. Get a spine, man. Musk posted on X after conducting a poll where 78% of users voted in favor of bringing the Les back. Oh, I get it now. I get it. Elon told you to do it. Damn, man. Elon has pulled every single one of y'all's card. All of you. Elon Musk has now reinstated the prolific, self-proclaimed racist, and did a Twitter poll to determine if he should I get it's a game. I understand. It's like Hunger Games, but, real people, not actors. Some of Les's other posts include, as recently as December, he called for the repeal of the Civil Rights Act, tweeting, quote, I just want a eugenic immigration policy. Is that too much to ask? And Les also made controversial statements about the Middle East conflict, suggesting he would not care, quote, if Gaza and Israel both wiped off the face of the earth. Wait a minute. Put it back up. He did not care if Gaza and Israel were both wiped off the face of the earth. Put his picture back up again. Sir, I'm declaring you anti-Semitic. There you go. That should do it. All right, Woz, thoughts here.
I mean, one thing we could say about this guy is that he's anti-discriminatory in his hate. I mean, the guy hates Arabs, Jews, Indians. I mean, who doesn't this guy hate? And and JD and these sort of new right types. And look, and some of the times I do think, even on the left, there was some level of overreach in terms of going nuts on the internet on people for old tweets. And the trouble is these tweets weren't old. Right. It was just the other day, dude. And this guy was just saying flagrantly hateful stuff. Like, this isn't people getting dinged for stuff they did in 2009. Like, this was just the other day. And, I understand the right's whole anti-cancellation campaign and all of that. That's great, but this is not that. And it makes me think the whole thing was a ploy to get points in terms of, he stepped down. We did a poll. People think he should come back. JD Vance come to his defense. It all sounds like just a sad ploy for these guys to do the thing that they love most, which is, in their view, owning the quote unquote libs. And this is just more stupidity from these guys.
Yeah. And the unfortunate thing is he has told you his disdain for groups that he will be in charge of caring for. And that becomes the issue as it relates to government and the administration of government. Dear brother, always great to have you on the program. Tell people how they can follow you and continue to check out your work.
Check us out at theringer.com, all of our NBA and pop culture coverage, and make sure you follow me at Big Woz on every single social media platform, including Blue Sky now. So see you guys soon.
See you soon. Thank you, dear brother, for all your leadership. All right, remember, take care of yourself, take care of each other, take care of the planet. Remember, the truth is always indisputable.